welcome back to our live election night coverage here on RMU TV, presented by SCJ. Alongside John Clocko, I am Brooks Bratton. As you just saw right there, we've got some more breaking news. We've got an updated electoral vote count for you: 147 for President Barack Obama and 158 for Mitt Romney. And in two key battleground states, although we may be starting to see President Obama pull away in both, CNN is reporting that Florida and Ohio are both still too close to call for either candidate.
And Brooks, it's pretty important to mention that obviously those two states are incredibly key states. If you remember back in a couple elections ago, Tim Russert on NBC held up that little whiteboard that said, yep, Florida, Florida, Florida. And the great Tim Russert, God rest his soul, he was right in that election, and that's really what this election could come down to. We're starting to see Obama building a lead in Florida. As I said earlier, I teased, we said he was under 1,000 votes separating the two candidates, and that lead has definitely been building for President Obama. Mitt Romney losing some momentum in Florida. Also, President Obama is starting to hold a lead in Ohio, as you mentioned. A narrow lead right now, but it is a lead nonetheless, and one we will be keeping our eyes on.
At one point this evening, according to CNN, President Obama and Mitt Romney in the state of Florida were less than 300 votes apart, just for a mere moment, but that just goes to show you how close the state of Florida really is. Very similar to the year 2000 when we had that voting debacle there. Far from a debacle is Leah Fleischel. She's over at the social media desk, and she's got some more as to what's happening in the world of social media. Leah, what do you have?
Thank you, Brooks. As we take a look at our electoral college map, we have not been able to officially update anything. As we talked about, Florida and Ohio still waiting to come in. Speaking of Florida and Ohio, though, they are trending to no surprise. Additionally, on our Twitter feed, we have that polls will be closing in 36 minutes, the next set of them. That is from the Century, and we also have the Century updating us on 50% of the vote in Florida for Obama and Romney with 49. Other than that, we're going to be holding our breath, waiting for more results to come back in, and for that, we'll go back over to Brooks and John.
All right, Leah, thank you very much. Appreciate that. We'll check back in with you later on. We are awaiting, in the next 28 minutes or so, the closing of 6 other states on the West Coast. Those include California, Hawaii, Idaho, North Dakota, Oregon, and Washington State. And then one after that, Alaska closes at 1 a.m. Eastern Time. So only 7 states left to close their polls, Brooks. And we're really starting to see a lot of those results come in.
Our good friend Alaska, the nightcap this evening, if you're staying up late to see what the Alaskans are voting. But you mentioned the states closing at 11 o'clock, and none of those states really are hotly contested. States like California, Oregon, Washington expected to go Obama. States like North Dakota, perhaps Idaho going Mitt Romney. But again, no surprises out there. And as we mentioned before, Obama's starting to build that slight lead in states like Ohio and Florida. If he can get a lead in those states and ultimately capture those states, it's going to be tough for Mitt Romney to make up any ground.
Well, and as you said, there have been no surprises, and that's troubling for the Romney campaign. That's what they've needed. They need some of those surprise states. They need momentum where they didn't expect it, and as of yet, they're not getting it. So it's something to keep our eye on as we continue in our coverage here tonight. I think what we are going to do right now is send it over to our very own Maria Motti. She's standing by once again with Dr. Anthony Moretti with a little more insight. Guys, how are you?
Great. Thank you so much, John. And like you said, I'm here with Dr. Anthony Moretti, Associate Professor of Communication here at RMU. Thank you for being here, Doctor.
Good to be back.
With our battleground states still hanging in the balance, and in the majority of them, Obama has great lead in exit polling and previous polling. What does Romney need to do to pull this off?
You know, you're reaching a point if you're in the Romney headquarters that you're saying, you know what, we need a miracle somewhere. We need that Hail Mary pass, to sort of borrow a football cliche. If he cannot win Florida, those 29 electoral votes, you may say, okay, that's one state. But as Brooks and as John were just talking about, then take yourself out west. There are 74 electoral college votes out there that are probably all going to go to President Obama very early after the 11 o'clock hour, that being California, Oregon, and Washington. You start putting the math together, and Mitt Romney's simply running out of ways to get to that magic 270. As they said also, and as Leah has shown on the map as well, and as we've shown on that map all night, Romney needs a surprise. He needs that victory somewhere he wasn't expected to get. Pennsylvania would have been an example, but obviously of the contested states to this point, the big sort of 4 or 5, the only one that right now has been called has gone for the president. That's a problem for Mitt Romney.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about Florida. You know, at this point, Romney is running out of options, especially in the southern region. What does he need to do in the middle area?
Well, you know, again, you start looking at message, I think, at this point, and you begin to say, okay, what didn't work for us? And I think if you're a Republican, tomorrow morning, that answer is largely in Florida, I think, going to come down to the Medicare issue. I think that there are going to be enough Republicans, especially enough seniors in Florida, who are going to say that plan to do something to Medicare, we're not quite sure what you were going to do to it, was just enough of a concern to us that when push came to shove, we voted for the president. But keep something in mind, too. This idea of the president building a slow but steady lead, or maybe building back a slow or steady lead, was something we began to see about a week or so ago. He had a dreadful first presidential debate, and that sort of undid all the momentum he had used or built up from the convention. He sort of kick-started his campaign again with that second and third presidential debate. So right now, if you're a Republican, you're beginning to scratch your head saying, if we can't win Florida, is there any other place out there? And the answer doesn't appear to be a very good answer.
You bring up the word message. If the results continue to trend this way for Republicans, what's that mean for their message?
Well, you know, I think at this point they're saying, all right, let's look back at 2008 and say that the Republican brand may have been damaged 4 years ago, and that's why Barack Obama won. Now you begin to say, okay, this was a president who, depending upon where you fall on the political spectrum, didn't deliver an economic turnaround as has been promised. Is the problem really for the Republican Party that it largely is too white, too male, and skewing too old? If that becomes a bigger problem trend-wise as we look forward to next elections, then you begin to say, if they can't get Latino voters, if they can't get Asian voters, if they can continue to lose African-American voters by tremendous percentages, you begin to say, wait a minute, is this the beginning of a potential series of elections in which Republicans get close but can't get over that 270 bar because although they win and play very strongly in the South, they don't play well enough on the coasts where enough of those big electoral college votes exist.
Okay. Let's bring it home for our viewers right before we wrap it up. Let's talk about Pennsylvania for a moment. Casey has already been announced to win a second term. What do you think this means so far as momentum is concerned with the Obama win here in the state?
Well, you know, I think what it says, again, is that the Democrats can consider Pennsylvania to be reliable territory, so to speak. Yes, in the last week or so, those polls were narrowing a little bit, but they weren't narrowing to a degree that you said, gee, I think Romney's going to win this state. It was enough to say, maybe we'll pay a little more attention to it than we otherwise might have thought. But considering how relatively early Bob Casey was declared or was projected as the winner, and then how relatively quickly also, at least in comparison to Ohio and that sort of thing, when you see that kind of success, you begin to say, if you're a Democrat long term, you begin to say Pennsylvania is reliable territory for that party.
Thank you so much,
Good to be
Dr.
here.
Anthony Moretti, Communication Associate Professor. Next on the docket, we go to Dan.
All right, Maria, thanks very much. We are going to come back over to the main desk here and talk a little bit about what Dr. Moretti said. He touched on that Florida that we were mentioning earlier. And really, Brooks, I don't see any way that Mitt Romney can win. I echo what he says if he doesn't take Florida.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We mentioned Ohio and Florida. We've been talking about it all night. We've heard about it for months, that they're going to be key states. And if Governor Mitt Romney does not take those, which it is not looking like he's going to, we had heard that potentially this election, if it was close enough, could go on for days, even weeks, trying to find out the final tally results. As of now, it is not looking like that is going to be the case.
One of the things we were watching earlier, Brooks, was in Virginia, there was lines and lines of voters. And in fact, when voting closed in Virginia, I believe at 7 o'clock, yeah, 7 o'clock it voted, they still had lines stretched, and initial reports were that they wouldn't get people through those lines until after 11 o'clock tonight. So there are actually still votes being cast in the state of Virginia. That state also a key state, but for right now, those votes can't be counted as they're still coming in, and that's something else that we need to keep in mind and watch as we go throughout the night.
Yeah, as votes continue to come in, these states that have been coming in, a lot of them being projected very early with only 2, 3, 4% of the votes coming in. So even though there are still states that are out there voting, now you mentioned Virginia. Virginia has not yet been called. It is leaning towards Romney from what we've been seeing right now. Virginia is too close to be called. However, and again, we've been mentioning all night, there are not any states that have come as a surprise. It's not like Barack Obama is overtaking any states that Mitt Romney was supposed to take, and vice versa. Mitt Romney has not made any splashes or any surprises as well. So things are going how we expected them to go, and if you're a supporter of Mitt Romney, not good news. If you're a supporter of Barack Obama, on the other hand, looking like 4 more years could potentially be coming within a couple of hours.
Don't want to say that for sure yet, but we're getting there as we go throughout the night here. Stay with us. We want to take a look now at some video from the Student Alliance for Equality, the SAFE group on campus. They're having a watch party, and we want to take a look at some of that video right here, right now.
While some parties are strictly for Republicans and some parties are strictly for Democrats, some parties are just here to see what the greater good of our country will be. I'm here at the SAFE political party in the building Hale 210. I'm here with Tanner, one of the members of SAFE. Tanner, what are you guys doing here at this party?
Currently, we are making posters for our annual Rainbow Walk, and we are also watching the impending results of the presidential election.
Do any of you here have any strict political views, or are you just here to see who the next leader of our country will be and how it's going to be for the next 4 years?
Well, I really can't speak for everyone in the group. I assume we're mostly Democrats. I'm actually Libertarian, but I'm just watching to see who's going to win.
Well, there you have it. Not everyone on campus has to have a strong political opinion, but everyone on campus can care about what the future of our country will be.
All right, thank you, Dan, for that report. We've got yet some more breaking news. We've been having it coming in all night as we expected, and we've got some more coming into the studio right now. A couple of tidbits to pass along to you. 39% of the national popular vote has come in, and that is putting Mitt Romney right now ahead of President Obama by 1.4 million votes. Again, 39% of the popular vote, or the national popular vote, rather. Another item that has just come up in Florida, we mentioned all night, very close. 88% of the votes in Florida, Obama leading by less than 22,000. So he does have a lead, less than 22,000. Now, earlier in the evening, it was only by 300 that Obama had a lead. So his lead has expanded greatly again, 22,000 in the state of Florida where over 9 million people were expected to vote. Not a huge lead, but a lead nonetheless, and a lead that Mitt Romney over the last 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes has not been able to overcome.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned the national popular vote, Brooks, because this kind of is starting to resemble a 2000 situation here with Bush and Gore, where Gore actually won the popular vote, but Bush was the president because of the Electoral College. As of now, 1.4 million votes, as you said, for Mitt Romney ahead of the president, but still the Electoral College votes are what matters, and that's what matters. And Florida is that key state, and we are actually beginning to see a little bit of some retraction of Obama numbers, but he's still ahead. He's starting to lose a little bit of what he had initially, but he is still ahead and is expected to be ahead for quite some time as well. Ohio, as we mentioned, still has that narrow lead, and we are continuing on our count to 270 Electoral College votes, Brooks.
It's that magic number to 270. Again, you mentioned the popular vote. A greater proportion of the country can favor one candidate, but unless you've got those electoral votes coming in, it really doesn't matter a whole lot. Of the last check that we had of the electoral votes, Romney had a slim lead as more states come in, particularly Ohio and Florida. that number is sure to change throughout the night.
We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, some more results, an update on social media, and a lot more as we continue here on election night. You are watching Robert Morris University's live coverage of the 2012 presidential election right here on RMU TV.